Now, before we talk about security on Pi, let's talk about security surrounding Pi on the machine that Pi is going to be running on. Well, we would suggest, of course, you've got all the typical security that you would associate with a machine that's in an enterprise that's taken security seriously. You've got domain users, you've got routers with firewalls, you've got antivirus programs, and for remote access, you have some kind of control or exert some kind of control over that remote access. So we suggest that as of course, a good starting point. Now, just so you know, we typically see fixed IP addresses for all of the interface nodes. And I'll show you the reason for that. We typically go with fixed because if we take a look at our trusts, and trust is our primary mechanism, even to this day, for interfaces that are API-based. Those interfaces that are API-based, the primary way for them to connect to the Pi server is through these trusts. And as you can see, one of the primary ways of setting up a trust is using IP address and net mask. So not a real good idea if you've got trusts based on IP address. Not a good idea to have some kind of non-fixed IP address associated with your interface node. Now, Pi doesn't really require that the server be on that domain. Typically it is, but it doesn't require that. And if you want to isolate it entirely, you can do that, and then people can administer it remotely using some kind of remote desktop, or they can just go into the computer room and use it at the local terminal. So Pi does not need to be on that domain. And typically the Pi clients, computers running process book, etc., they're going to be using DHCP and those generated IP addresses. Those are fine for the Pi clients. Now, other things that we would suggest is that you have Pi in a secure area. These are all kind of commonsensical things. Secured area, have a lock on your door, have a UPS available, make sure that all of your passwords are secure and unique, both for the administrator and also for Pi admin. Pi admin is that super Pi user that for such a long time in the history of Pi admin's been kind of the super user. Good idea to make sure you've got a password on that, just in case there's anything that's still relying on that Pi admin security settings. Also, have a screensaver that locks whenever it goes on. Requires some kind of a password for re-entry. We don't suggest you have any kind of internet browser access on the Pi server. Just a good, solid practice to instead download onto a different machine and then bring that over to Pi using flash media or whatever, CDs, what have you. And then finally, don't put any client software on the Pi server. And we're always kind of surprised when we find customers that are actually doing that, or they're running Excel or ProcessBook on that Pi server. We've always considered Pi system a server class application that requires server class hardware. And we've actually gotten support calls from people that said, yeah, my Pi server looks like it's skipping calculations. We dig down into it and find out they're running Excel and Word and all kinds of other things. That's not really what you want to do on a machine that's trying to do real-time data acquisition. So just keep the client software off of the Pi server if you can.